Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mack's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamack.com today.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC'S KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila. Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC'S KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Terry Boyle McDougall. Terry is an executive and career coach and CEO of Terry McDougall Coaching. She helps high-achieving women remove obstacles that keep them stuck so that they can enjoy more success and satisfaction in their lives and careers. Before becoming a coach, Terry was a longtime corporate marketing executive where she led teams, developed strategies, and advised senior leaders to drive business results. She is the author of The Winning Game of Work, Career Happiness, and Success on Your Own Terms. All right, welcome to the show, Terry.
Sheila, thanks for having me.
Yes. So one way I'd like to start this show off is based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. The go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. I'd love to hear about maybe one of your situations. So a time in your business or personal life where you had to overcome a tough situation and how you did that.
Well, there's so many. There's one I think that years ago I worked for a bank and I was in the marketing department, and I was very entrusted by the head of marketing. He kind of treated me like his right-hand person, and confided in me, had me work on a lot of sort of like projects that were kind of, I'm not going to say secret, but important projects. And he ended up leaving the company, and I decided to apply for his job. I felt like I had a really good view into a lot of the things that we were working on, and in the months after he left, but before they posted the position, I sort of informally stepped up to lead the department. And I suppose that in some ways I was a little bit I don't know. I don't think I had the kind of self-awareness that I really needed to recognize that it was going to be a big step to go from sort of right-hand man to being the leader of a department. So I didn't really do a lot to prepare for the interview, even though I knew a lot about what needed to be done in the department. I just kind of assumed that people would see me as the heir apparent and that I wouldn't have to do a whole lot. Well, the first interview with HR was fine. The second interview was a panel interview with other marketing leaders, and I got really nervous and I did a terrible job. I just bombed. I got the flop sweats and all of this kind of thing. And I really felt humiliated because not only did I feel like I had sort of an inside track for the job, but I was going to have to keep working with all of these people. And I felt like I failed. And so what I decided to do was, even though I didn't think I had any shot at the job at that point, I just recognized I had a real weak point in myself. And so and it's funny because this was probably 15 or 20 years ago. And I remember thinking like, oh, I think there's something called like a career coach or an executive coach. And I remember I did a search for it and I found somebody in my town and I hired her. And, the rate at the time seemed like a lot of money, but I thought, I don't want to have just hit this wall and then just like fall on the ground. And that's the end of my advancement. So I did hire her. She helped me a lot with my confidence and with interviewing. And then a funny thing happened with that job. They got all the way to the end of the recruiting process and they offered it to someone who turned it down. And so rather than them going to the second candidate, I suppose they didn't really have a second candidate they were interested in, they started the process all over again. And I applied again. But this time I was prepared from the interviewing standpoint. I went out and did I bought a new wardrobe. I kind of did a little bit of a makeover so I would look like I was ready for that next level. This time I made it all the way to the finals. I can remember still very keenly sitting in the boardroom with the CEO of the division and his two people. This is another panel interview, and feeling very confident. Unfortunately, I did not get the job offer. They offered it to an external candidate. But the day that I found out that I didn't get the job, I did get a call just randomly from a recruiter. And by the time that I ended up leaving that company about 4 months later, I had 2 job offers and I was actively interviewing for a third job. So, I think that failure ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I just wasn't going to take that as a loss. It taught me something about myself. It inspired me to go out and do something about it. And the job that I ended up taking ended up doubling my salary within a year.
Oh, wow. So that was really a gift in so many ways.
It was.
Wow.
It was. And, I think sorry to interrupt, Sheila. I just feel like sometimes, we will take, we quote unquote fail. And we just say, we just want to go into a corner and lick our wounds. But I have learned that failure is only failure if we stop trying.
Exactly. It's all learnings. And
anybody
that hasn't failed has no success, because how do you get to success? Lots of trial and error, just the way it is. Yes. Yes. So I'd love to hear how you're changing things this year based on last year and all the situations that happened as far as the workplace, COVID, universal pause, whatever you want to call it. How does that affect what you're doing and how you're helping other people? How have you course corrected for that?
Well, it actually did not impact my business as much as it did many people's, because I was already working from home, meeting with the vast majority of my clients by phone or by Zoom anyway. I did have a small minority of my clients that I would sometimes meet in person, because I actually work with people all across the country. And but if somebody was in my local area, sometimes we might meet in their office or in a coffee shop or something for our sessions. So that was a little bit different. And I was definitely used to getting out and networking, and that was an important part of business development. So that had to really go online. I think maybe just being at home more, I've gotten a little more creative. I actually just launched a podcast myself, and I think not having to exert the energy to sort of go out, get on the train and go into the city. And, sometimes some of my networking get-togethers might take a half a day, just because of travel time and all of that. And so in some ways, I don't want to say that COVID's a blessing, because it's not, but, we adapt to the circumstances, and not having to go out and travel as much, that preserves energy for other things. And that's been, nice. And then my kids are around more too. And I like that.
Yes, that is so interesting. And it is different. It's something to adjust to. And so your coaching clients, how does that work as far as you're meeting once a week, once a month? What does that typically look like?
It really depends on what the needs of the clients are. I have some people that will start off meeting on a weekly basis, and then a lot of times we'll sort of, like, once we've laid the foundation and they have kind of like a roadmap of what they need to do, and then we might switch to every other week. I have other clients that it really depends on what it is they're hiring me for. Like, I have some clients that just want somebody to help hold them accountable. And so we might meet once a month, right? And they just want to have me sort of review their goals with them and maybe talk over situations that they're facing, so that they can sort of course correct and keep going. But it just depends.
Yes. And do you have a tip? One of the things it says is that you help people overcome obstacles. Mm-hmm. So do you have any tips for people listening in as far as how to overcome some of the obstacles they may be facing this year in business?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times when we run into obstacles, our first instinct is either to avoid it or to fight it. And I kind of look at it like this is tunnel vision, right? And it really goes to the fight or flight response. But there are actually many other ways that we can respond. And in coaching, what I try to get people to do is, like, let's start peeling those blinders back so we can think about how else we might be able to respond to this situation. And it could be, even if you're in conflict with someone, sometimes it might just be like a knee-jerk reaction to avoid them or to fight them, right? Or say something snarky or whatever. But sometimes if we just step back and say, what's causing this person to do this? How might I respond in a different way? Do they need to be cared for? Can I respond with kindness? Because a lot of times when we change the way that we show up, it changes the situation. And many times we're just sort of like in these behavioral patterns that we repeat again and again. And a lot of times it can come from even our own childhood, right? Like, this is what we saw our parents do, or this is just sort of what we were programmed to do. And we have so many other ways that we can respond. And sometimes it just take a beat, like take a breath and say, what else could I do here?
Yes. A lot of people are in fear and reactive. I definitely feel there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
I know my daughter did her taxes last year, and she's a young college student, and she said, I went and I paid, and I did a couple $100. I had them do my taxes, and they made a mistake. Oh. And so she called in, and it was right after the COVID hit, and we were all on the lockdown. And the lady told her, well, just suck it up and handle it yourself. And she was like, but you're the person, you're the tax person I paid. Yeah. I don't know how to do it. And it was funny, because I don't think that would have been the response that normally would have happened from that tax company.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right. When people are in kind of survival mode, they go to that fight or flight, right?
Yes.
And it's really survival. It's like, I have to take care of myself. I don't have time or space to worry about what your feelings or your needs are. And I think that we can all, well, I want to say, first of all, it's natural when things are threatening, when they feel threatening, to go into that survival mode. But sometimes it's not as threatening as we may envision, right? And so sometimes we can just like maybe question and say, is this really as dangerous as what I fear, right? And can I just like step back and look at the bigger picture and see what my options are?
Right. Yes, and there was a lot of fear. It was that first week that it was March, the first week in March or so, whenever they announced lockdowns, and we were. And so for that, I think there was so much fear, and we didn't get mad. But once I was literally in the room and over, because she had it on. She did the speaker thing where you put it on the speakerphone because you want to have the phone to her ear. Yeah, we just had a laugh. And we made it funny, but we weren't laughing at the lady, but we knew that it was coming from something like, this is not coming from.
Yeah, this is not the normal response. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Having a bad day. And it was interesting how our response, and we were able to, talk to someone else in the office later in the week and figure it out. And it was fine, but it was such a minor thing and everything. But it was just interesting because you see how people are showing up out of fear or out of whatever. And it's how, if we can look past how they're showing up and think about, you're a parent, I'm a parent, you think about a young child and how maybe they're screaming or yelling or crying or acting out because they're scared or because something is not right and they're not settled. And it's kind of the same, but for adults, because we've never experienced all these changes.
Right. Well, I think that, oh, go ahead. I don't know if we had like a little delay there. I was just going to say that one of the skills that I learned in my coach training was acknowledgement and validation. When somebody's having a strong emotional reaction, we don't have to agree with it, but we can acknowledge that for them, that's natural. Like, it's natural that you'd be fearful if there's a deadly virus that's, floating around in the air, and I think acknowledging that and saying, like, anybody would feel that way if they, maybe they were immunocompromised or something. And we don't have all the answers about this, right? Like, it would be normal to be scared about that. And I think a lot of times that's all people want, is just to be seen and acknowledged, like, sure. Or, it's natural to be angry if somebody mistreats you, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to like jump on the bandwagon and start screaming also, but you can say, yeah, that's natural that you'd be angry about that.
Right. Now, how many children do you have, may I ask? That
I have 3.
And how does that work as far as working from home and kids?
My kids are older.
And are your kids
my kids are older. So I have a 23-year-old who is out of college. He graduated in 2019, and he came home after college and was working as a bartender, hoping to save up money to move to Los Angeles. And of course, the bar's all closed, and so he's at home. He's decided to apply to grad school now. I have another one who, thankfully, he's in college, but he decided to take the spring semester off. So just, randomly. And so that was good that he wasn't really affected by that, but he has since transferred to an online college. And then my youngest child is a junior in high school. So she's pretty self-sufficient. But I really do feel for the working parents who have the little ones at home, whether they're, like toddlers or elementary school kids that really need a lot of help. And they're trying to work from home and, be a teacher and technical advisor. You know, it's hard.
Right. Yes, it's very different, and it's something that we have to figure out in a way. It's a gift of time, I find. For myself, I'm happy. I have a couple home that the dorms closed, so they had to fly home, and I'm like, oh, this is great because all mine are about that same age range,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, I thought they were gone forever, so now
I
I'm
know.
enjoying every second and all these magic moments, and I'm like, it's like a slumber party. They're like, okay, mom, that's enough. But I'm having a blast that way, and just getting to know my now young adults as
Yeah.
adults,
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah. It's
different
nice.
relationship. And yes, and having open conversations about what's going on in the world. And
Hmm.
I think that I've noticed they care, not that they didn't care before, but they're more involved with the history and what happened in the past and how that affects our future, and even how I do my own business and how
Hmm.
they can possibly create their own businesses. And they're
Yeah.
they're just more in tune with things and listening in a different way. So it perhaps is a gift in certain ways for families to reconnect during this time, and
I
we'll be able to
agree.
look back and have lots of
It's
lots of jokes about the craziness
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
I try to, I'm certainly not happy that we're all locked down like this, but I'm counting my blessings about the special times and being able to see my kids a lot more, because even though everybody was back living at home even before, everyone was out and about all the time, and we very rarely had everybody at home at the same time, and now that's much more frequent, and it's nice.
Yes. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about the type of coaching you do and how you're working with people. You also have some books that are available, and I'd love to hear a little bit about each book.
Well, I just have one book, and my book is Winning the Game of Work: Career Happiness and Satisfaction on Your Own Terms. I wrote that book. Well, actually, it started out as a blog when I first left my corporate world job, and you know, I was pretty successful. I rose to head marketing for a few businesses at the last place that I worked, but that comes at a cost. It really does. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of stress, and I think when I left that job, I had a lot that I needed to process. So I just started writing. I'd wake up in the morning and kind of have an idea, and I would just write. And after I blogged for a couple of years, somebody said, you probably have enough words for a book. And so that got me thinking, like, oh, okay, maybe I do. And so I actually did a book writing program, and the blogs they became sort of the seed that the book became.
Mhm.
And the book is really about lessons that I learned. I think that I really thought that to be successful at work, you just basically did the same thing that you did at school, right? Like, which you were like, okay, what does the teacher expect? What does my boss expect? And I'm just going to work really hard.
Right.
And that's what I did. And for a long time, I wasn't really advancing as quickly as I thought that I should. And I did have a mentor. Actually, it was the boss that I mentioned earlier that left the company. He was a really great mentor to me. And he sort of, pulled back the curtain a little bit and really started pointing out to me what was really going on within the organization, and, what people really care about, and what you have to do in order to sort of, grab the brass ring, which I've actually kind of boiled it down to, there's really only three ways to add value in a company. And it's either you're helping them make money, save money, or reduce risk. And obviously, like, if you boil it down that low, that doesn't seem that interesting to me, right? Like, I'm not a salesperson, but I did work in marketing, and marketing does help companies make money. And so basically, rather than just, when I talk with people that either want to advance in their career or they're looking for a new job, I say, okay, well, let's talk about what you did. Now let's try to connect the dots between what you did and how it either helped save or make money or reduce risk. Because once you can connect those dots, and then people start to see the value that you bring. And, I will also say that it helps to be selective about what you invest your time in, because at most jobs and at most companies, you could work 24/7 and never finish your to-do list. Right. You have to be selective about what you invest your time and energy in. And, I've worked with plenty of people that come to me that are just, they're totally burnt out because they're trying to do everything. And, what I try to get people to say is like, okay, what's your highest value work, right? Like, what's the most important thing? What are your priorities? And especially if you've got a team of people that report to you, what are the things that you must do, like nobody else can do it? And what are the things that other people could do? Because I see a lot of times, especially like newly promoted managers, they'll say, you know what, it's just faster for me to do it. They won't spend the time training people, or they don't feel comfortable delegating. And I say, yeah, of course, when you delegate, at least initially, it's going to take somebody else longer than what it takes you. But what you have to realize is that if you're spending your time doing something that's not your highest value work, there's an opportunity cost there. You're not being strategic. You're not looking at the big picture. You're not thinking about what's the innovation that is, that's going to maybe make the next big product for your company or something like that.
Right. Yes, that makes sense. And that also applies for entrepreneurs, I think, even more so. I've mostly been an entrepreneur all my life. And so for me, it's something that I had to learn early on, is how to delegate well, let go of it perfection. One of the things I did years ago, I opened gift stores when I was 23. And so I had the camcorder, the 20-pound camcorder, and I would have people record me doing each aspect of running the gift store, from even taking out the trash, how to hand people the bag, how to greet people, the whole everything. And I recorded me doing these tasks. And then I would have the new hires come in, and I would say, here's pizza and drinks and salad, and watch the movie.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and I said, and I want you to be me.
Yeah, exactly. that makes so much sense. And that's, that's another thing that that I tell people all the time is like, build systems, right? Like what's something that is, you can build it once and it's repeatable, right? So you don't have to use your valuable time to train every group that comes in, right? You do it once and then it's, on autopilot.
Yes. And I had at home, I had 6 children. I had fostered 3 to adopt. I was in the process of adoption. And then I had surprise. I had 2 more. So I had 6 total. And then I also had elders that got sick. And then they stayed with us. And then we had some caring for the elders. And so I had to teach people. I even did this with the nannies and the housekeepers. But I know that sounds, because I had to have help. How do you run? I had 5 stores and I had these kids, and then I had these elders show up. And I was like, okay, this is I had to delegate, but I didn't want it to be on my terms, because that's one thing in management. It's so, you want to do everything. And as a parent, a working parent, you want to be there to give your kids quality time. And so you have to delegate even more. And so you have to really pick and choose. And then even for the kids, to show a video about, go figure, this is what I want you to do for this trip. See that? This is what I want. Do this.
As the boss or as the parent, setting expectations is a really important part of what our role is, and I think that a lot of times people, they're hungry for that. They're hungry for direction. They're hungry for, can you like lay out the context of where I fit into the vision for where we're going, right? And as a leader, these are really important things that actually nobody else can do. It's the things that we have to free up enough time to do so that we can leverage all of the other resources, whether they're human resources or technology or time or our own energy.
And then as far as career, so you help people to find a career that's really a good fit for them.
Yeah, I actually work with people in a couple different scenarios. The first one is that they have a job and there's something that's keeping them from being as successful as they'd like to be. So, a lot of times it's just once they develop some skills, they actually really enjoy their job more because they're being more successful. But I also work with people who have been laid off or somebody who's in a job that they just know is not a good fit for them anymore. And it can be that they want to get a job at a different company or they want to pivot. They want to do something different. I was actually just talking with a new client earlier today who works in education, and she wants to get out of education and she wants to get into the corporate world. And so, what we're really going to do is take a look at her skill set and, see how we might be able to sort of repackage things that she's done so that they can fit roles that exist within the corporate world. And, I think a lot of times, especially when people are going from like nonprofit to for-profit or from the government to the private sector, that they don't know what they don't know. Right. And so I just help them to sort of connect the dots between the environment that they've been in and the one that they want to go into, and also really encourage them to do a lot of networking so that they can, get a picture from people that are doing it currently.
Yes, that sounds so important. I mean, think about it. We spend more hours at work than at home when we're awake.
It's very true.
About it. So what an investment to have some time and really connect with the right career, or if you're making a career move, to make that right choice so that you are spending time doing what you love and sharing your talents in the best way, and in a career where you're really happy about getting up in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing more miserable whenever, you get that bad feeling on Sunday night, like, oh, I got to get up tomorrow and go to work. And that's the worst. I mean, I've been there. I think everybody's been there. And I also will say that, I've been in jobs where maybe there was like a period of time where I felt like that, right? But then maybe a new project would come along, or maybe I'd move into a different role in the same company and I'd get excited again. But sometimes, people will realize like, no, this job's just not a good fit for me and I don't see any place that I can go. And that's usually the time to, really start considering what's next, because I don't think any of us deserve to be in a role that we're really unhappy in for a long period of time. Like we all have gifts and we need to be using those, like, to make the world a better place, right? And I won't get on my woo-woo soapbox, but I do
totally agree. When I was 18 years old, I needed money. I was a young mom, and I had this baby and I needed to make as much money as I could find. And this was, this 18-year-old mind. And so I got a certificate in programming and computer programming. This is DOS days. This DOS and Fortran and Database 3+ and all this old stuff. And I figured it out. I was the C student. This was not my venue. This was not my cup of tea. It was not the thing that I loved. And it was $20 an hour back then, plus benefits and a preschool and childcare. And I was like, okay, this is incredible. It was close to my house. And I got hired at JPL, which Jet Propulsion Lab, NASA, in the engineering department. It took me twice as long to do the programming. So I would stay early. I would get there early and I would stay late because I needed to, and I wouldn't charge for those hours. I just did my hours. I'd stay extra. It was so hard. It was really, I was earning every penny because it wasn't what I belonged in. It wasn't the field. It wasn't right for me. And before you know it, they had me teaching the safety training classes because I made people laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Getting in front of groups, and we were talking and laughing, and they were like, oh, good, OSHA, we can check this off. And I was doing other things, And then I found home. And then when I had switched over to business later on at 23, 18 to 23 was like me working toward that. I never went back to the programming.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, I even got the carpal tunnel syndrome. I never did it, but I was in physical pain because my body was like, I don't like this job. This is not right for you. You feel it. And it could be that it's the physical job, or it could be you might be in a job that you love the career, but it may be that the workplace doesn't have your values. So to be able to work with someone like Terry and do an assessment and find other options and opportunities you could fit into a place of work that's aligned with your values and mission and purpose in life is going to make all the difference for, what you went to school for and why you're in that career in the first place, other than staying maybe stagnant in a situation that's not aligned. That would really help.
Yeah, definitely. And I say to people, it matters if you're happy. I think sometimes people say like, oh, work, it's not supposed to be fun. But it can be, right? And I think that it's a lot more sustainable when you get enjoyment out of the work that you do. When you were talking about, being a programmer, I mean, sometimes we go through periods of time where we make choices because, I mean, when I was in high school, I worked at a restaurant and I really wanted to wait on tables, but they made me work in the kitchen. And what I realized was that it's a lot easier to train waitresses than it is to train cooks. And so they didn't want to move me out of the kitchen. But, I did that because I made more money doing that than I would working in like a clothing store or something like that. And at that point, that was what was important to me. So sometimes we go through periods of time where we compromise, right? But if we're finding ourselves in a, long-term situation where we're just like constantly unhappy, like life is too short, like, and there are things that you could do that you're going to be happier doing that are going to be like sort of more in your wheelhouse just naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that sounds wonderful. So now, how can people connect with you if they are looking to maybe choose a new career or work with a coach that specializes in this field?
They can get in touch with me on my website at terrybmcdougall.com, or they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and my handle on LinkedIn is Terry B. McDougall.
All right. Well, thank you. That would be great. And I hope that helps a lot of people make that switch this year. So thank you again for being a guest on the show, Terry, and we will be back after these messages. All right. Stay tuned. So I would love to share now a short chapter from my book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this chapter goes into using the Boots formula for your finances and investing. Take a listen. Chapter 5. Money Matters. Finance. Geneva showed up at my vacation rental with a car full of her belongings. Everything she hadn't been able to fit in her small storage unit down the road. She told me she'd been moving from one vacation rental home to another, occasionally staying at friends' homes in between. She'd felt guided to visit me and had booked my rental for 3 days, but noticed it was available for the month. I don't have all the money at once, she told me. Can I pay as I go? I couldn't help but tell her yes. I knew she was in the right place. After she unpacked and got settled in, we sat outside on the deck for coffee and snacks. Soon, Geneva started to share about her own rock-bottom situation. She told me she used to own a beautiful 3-bedroom home and had been happily married with 2 grown sons. She had worked part-time for the school district and her husband was a props designer. She started to cry a little, but tried to hide it as, with a deep sigh, she continued. Geneva said she really loved that man and thought she had a rock-solid, honest husband. He was a bit of a slob and sometimes got angry with the kids, but he was a good provider and always very loving. She always trusted him and kept herself busy working and raising their kids. One day, the power went out at the house. When Geneva called the company to have a repairman come out, they told her that her service had been turned off due to unpaid bills. When her husband, who'd always paid the bills, got home, he explained that it had been a misunderstanding and he'd taken care of it, putting the bills on autopay so she didn't have to bother with them. Soon after that, Geneva went to make a phone call and discovered that the family's cell phone service had been disconnected. She was upset and concerned, so she drove over to her husband's job site. They told her that he hadn't been assigned to that site that day, even though that's where he told her he'd been working for the past 3 weeks. When he returned home, Geneva asked her husband, "How was work?" "Great," he answered. "We got a lot done and the project should be finished in a week or 2. She asked where he was working, and he told her the same site she had visited earlier that day. That's when it all came out. For most of their marriage, instead of working extra long hours, he was actually visiting his other family. Yes, he had a girlfriend, and together over the last 10 years or so of their marriage, he and she had 3 other children. Geneva had been minding her business, living what she felt was a pretty good and honest life, when boom, the bottom fell out from under her. Then, just like that, her husband left her alone in the shambles of their old life. Because he'd been in charge of their money and paying the bills, Geneva hadn't realized how behind they were. Everywhere she looked, all she saw were final notices and bill collectors. They were upside down on the house. She didn't have enough money to get current on the mortgage, and her credit was ruined. She said she went into a deep depression from the emotional and financial fallout. She just didn't know what to do. She didn't even know where to start. Geneva admitted that she drank too much for a while, oversleeping and calling out from her part-time work. When there was a downsizing wave, she was the first one to get fired. At this point in her story, Geneva was in full tears, with little bits of laughter and waves of anger, too. As she mentioned her ex, she slammed her fist on my park bench. When she came to stay with me, Geneva was working for a temp agency and taking part-time cleaning jobs on the side. She joked about how she'd seen a van advertising a topless maid service and admitted she was inches away from calling to apply just for the extra money. It was a joke, yet it spoke to a serious feeling. How on earth could she ever get ahead? The true cost. Situations we can't control or predict, ones that have serious financial consequences, happen more often than we'd like. We don't want to believe that this can happen to us. It's not something you'd ever want to think about or prepare for. Geneva had certainly never thought it was possible, but if the unexpected happens, you may find yourself in a financial pinch or even a financial catastrophe. Your financial circumstances change throughout your life, but when those changes are accompanied or even caused by a major life shift, that can lead to a rock bottom. Bouncing back from a financial rock bottom consists of 3 steps, which we'll look at in this chapter. Step 1. Evaluate where you are financially. The activity at the end of the chapter walks you through this step. Step 2. Use your resourcefulness to get where you need to be to support yourself and your family if you have children. Step 3. Once you have that stability, you can start looking for other opportunities to invest and potentially grow your money. Face the dragon. Whether you are going through a catastrophic event or financial hardship, the first step is to take an honest look at your financial picture. Maybe your husband did the finances. Maybe you did the finances and he helped do something else, but now you have to take over everything. If you've never had to manage your finances entirely on your own, or even if you have been in charge of your finances, you can learn how to manage them better. When you're going through the finances, it can feel like you have nothing left over after paying your bills. You almost want to give up or not even look. Just throw the bills in a drawer and worry about them when the money shows up. Then, once the drawer is full, You throw them on the floor of the closet, wondering where the money is going to come from. Your financial situation gets worse and worse until you can't even qualify to buy a vacuum. It happens. Financial stress is hard and scary. But there's something really empowering about taking an honest look at your financial situation and learning where to go from here. I call this facing the dragon. If you are behind in your bills, there are ways you can negotiate or make arrangements for your payments. People are so afraid to just pick up the phone and call the bill collector or credit card company. Call American Express and say, "Hey, I had a death in my family and I need more time to pay." Oftentimes, they'll give it to you. If your credit isn't good, I strongly suggest working with a credit repair service. Most of these services will actually write letters to your creditors on your behalf, removing or consolidating payments. After they get down to any bills that cannot be removed, many of them will actually get on a 3-way call and help you go through the negotiations to lower your payments. If you are going about this alone, it may be best to have a friend or family member that you trust get on the line with you or review what to say prior to calling in. I've worked with hundreds of clients who've had to repair their credit to qualify for a home loan or who had to rebuild their score. And now it's time for Dear Sheila. So if you have a question for me, please send it in to www.dearsheila.com, and your question may be selected to be shared on one of the radio shows. And if your question is shared, it will also be entered in a contest. This is a giveaway question contest. So once your question is shared on the air, you'll be entered to win a prize, and we have some fun prizes from many different vendors. So send your questions in again to dearsheila.com. Now take a listen. Here's a question. Welcome to Dear Sheila, answering real questions with real solutions to help reboot your life. My career got taken out. How do I reinvent my work life? Dear Sheila, after dedicating my time and life to a company this year, after 22 years, my employer went out of business. Now I'm struggling to start over again, reinvent my life, and figure out how to step into a similar career. I'm very qualified, yet close to retirement age, and it seems impossible to find any wage that matches my experience. My question is, what can I do at the age of 53 to restart in the work world while not burning out? Signed, Jobless at 50-something. Dear Jobless at 50-something, this is definitely the time for rebooting and reinventing your career and life on your terms. Often in the case of having to start over in a career, some reinvention is necessary. With your experience and connections in the field, you can use this time as an opportunity to design your work and life. Let's run this situation through the BOOTS formula. Throughout life, one can find themselves facing a difficult situation that often catches them by surprise. Over the years, I saw the patterns in all the times I've had to reboot, and in how I've helped my friends and clients get through a hard time and quickly back into action. Ultimately, I came up with the BOOTS formula. The B in the BOOTS formula is for being. It is about who you are being and all you are doing and who you need to be in this situation. You are going to have to be authentic and creative with how you design your new work life. At this point in your career, you may be the exact person to advise and help a new business get started. Write out a perfect day at your new dream job. What would that day look like? Would you be an advisor in a similar position or an entrepreneur? Who are you being in this vision? Being honest about who you must be in your search is key. The O in the BOOTS formula is for orientation. To get the outcomes you desire, you must be honest here. It is not better than it is, nor is it worse than it is. It simply is what it is. Make a list of your resources. Who do you know in the industry, similar industries, and what are your former coworkers doing? Again, be really honest about your outcomes, the outcomes you want. The next O in the Boots formula is for order of operations. Now that you know who you need to be and your orientation, you can decide in which order you must do things. You may need to take on part-time work. Be okay with that and proud of yourself for moving forward. If you do take an in-between position, do not stop applying to the dream job. In the long run, the order in which you do things is going to really drive your results. The T in the Boots formula is for thinking. This is where your mindset comes in. Stop waiting for the perfect new position to show up before you're happier. Choose to live in a grateful and happy state now and in each step in this process. When you go in for interviews or build your own company, your new employer or client will feel your energy. Be so proud of yourself for stepping up and designing your new work life. You will find as you choose your happiness now and express your truth and essence, the position that you are seeking will find you. The S in the Boots formula is for stepping up. This is the part that puts all the other pieces you have planned into place and gets you and your work life back into action. The time is now for us to collectively work together to rebuild this year. My hope is that this video series and my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, helps. In my book and on my website, I provide plenty of free resources for anyone dealing with a rock-bottom situation to reinvent and reboot their business and personal life. If you have a question for Dear Sheila, message me at www.sheilamac.com. As always, I wish you life, love, laughter, and light. If you're looking to take your finances to the next level this new year, I have a special course just for you. This is an individualized group course that holds people accountable and helps you get started. Along with the Jazzy app and many other tools, it's great to be in a small group course. I do have some new course times that I have added to make room, and we are having a New Year's special this month. So let me tell you a bit more about it. Eliminate your urge to get stuck in spending habits and patterns with overspending and not counting your dollars and cents or saving for the future. Learn how to invest quickly and easily. So, the course benefits. The courses I'm offering are unlike any other programs. They are closer to small group coaching packages than a course because each course is tailored to the unique needs of those who join. I help thousands of clients over the years to overcome tough situations, including how to get back on track with your finances, even if that's when you are starting over and you don't think you have much to save. And my own personal rock bottoms over time in life and investments helps me to be able to be a guide for you to get started in this after raising 6 children, getting them all through school, running 3 businesses. It was actually 5 gift stores, so that was considered one business, and some other businesses along the way, including an incredible real estate team and business that works on investing over many years. I have learned from starting off with nothing and being able to slowly save up and invest properly, how to get back on track and stay the course. So the secret in connecting a course, whether you choose this course or another one of the courses I'm leading, is that it has an accountability group, and it helps you get your business as well as your personal life back to the rock solid reasons why you're rebuilding. So we focus on your core values, life purpose, and vision. And with that, this is not a one-size-fits-all automated course where you just watch some videos. We actually work together as a team and it is individualized. I get to know you and I help you each step of the process as you rebuild and recreate your finances and wealth. So, how our courses work. The first thing you do is you sign up for the course, watch the introduction to the Boots formula, and then you will receive a self-reflection survey to complete. This survey is your homework and truly your heart work, and will help you set the foundation for each weekly course meeting. Now, the courses are monthly, and it is highly suggested that you commit to a minimum of 3 to 6 months, yet 1 year is really for best results. Each week when you do that homework, I personally review that homework with my small team, and we make sure that we know what material needs to go into next week's lesson. So this is really personalized based on your needs as you go through the year with me. Now, during the first few months of working with my team and I, you will uncover the triggers and automatic responses that have been holding you trapped in your situation, and you will also learn how to start to immediately apply the Boots formula to your daily life and business. This is what makes the course so individualized. You literally are beginning to not only overcome your tough situation, but you're also actually starting to create an entire lifestyle design, one that truly serves you in your career, your relationships, your family life, your home, and your community. So you will start to enjoy the results as you continue your reboot process, taking the course that best addresses your particular needs at this time. So if getting your finances is something that you want to do this year, and you're looking for a small course, an accountability coach, and someone to help you get back on track, then check that out. No matter which course you're taking or what tough situation you are coming back from, it is the foundation that will bring you a solid ground where you'll be able to overcome any surprises or triggers that come your way this year. And that's because this course is highly individualized. And for a limited time, my team and I have opened up the schedule to allow for additional courses at the New Year's special discounted rate. You'll be saving 75% off the normal pricing when you sign up, and you'll be locked in at that lower price for the entire year, yet you are able to stop at any time you choose. It is 1 month at a time, so you can finally achieve the outcomes and goals you want and that you tend to struggle with every year. Put an end to that struggle this year. Make this year your year to get to the next level. These courses bring your rebooting results that you desire and connect you to the top resources to put your lifestyle design, your visions, and your mission into action. We help you to create your business, relationship, and life on your terms. So if you're ready to take the next step, go to SheilaMack.com today. Here it is, my latest book. I have to let you know something, just between you and me. This book is not one size fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So the formula is designed to help you through any situation. I do have some homework for you. Go ahead and grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible, Amazon, and Kindle, as well as at www.sheilamack.com, and get your free Boots meditation gift for the holiday season at sheilamack.com/bootsmeditation. Thanks for listening.